My name is Shane Ebert. I'm president of CANEX Metals. CANEX has the Gold Range project in northern Arizona. We've made a new gold discovery, and we're currently drilling that discovery and advancing it towards the next phase.
Shane, good to see you. I haven't seen you for a long time. I haven't seen you since June last year. I've been following the press releases, etc. So how have you been? You still, where are you based out of these days?
I'm in Prince George, British Columbia.
Okay.
Been busy. It's been a busy 6 months. We've been drilling at the project since September, and we're still out there working.
Yeah, you have. But here's the thing: if I'm looking at the press releases, you're having success in the sense that you're finding lots of low grade, half a gram to even like up to 1.4 gram. That sort of level over, reasonable intervals. But it just feels like sort of more of the same, and I'm not sure the market's paying attention to that. So what is the process that you've been undergoing since I saw you last June to try to understand what it is that you've got?
Right. Well, we always take a fairly scientific approach to mineral exploration. We need to get the basics, the foundation for what it is you're exploring for, what the controls are, to really drive where you look next. So this process takes time. We're out there mapping, sampling, drilling, learning as we go. And I must say, we're making huge progress on the understanding side. And we're really opening up the size potential with what we're seeing on the ground.
Okay, but tell me about that, because you put out a release at the beginning of March, right? And you were talking about the mineralized trends and identifying new exploration targets, etc. And it was a fairly dry piece. I don't actually understand what you were trying to say to shareholders, to me. I didn't really know how to interpret it. Why put it out? Why are you excited about it? Or is it just a case of we're busy being busy?
Right. The relevance of that release is probably better or bigger than even the drill results that we put out recently. What we're seeing with that release last week is we've been focused on the Excelsior zone because it's fairly well exposed, and we've traced that out now for 250, 300 meters. Good continuity, lots of stuff between half a gram and a couple of grams. That's good. But what we're seeing is that's the edge of a much larger system. So what we released last week is this 1,000 meter by 500 meter wide footprint of golden soil anomalies, and advancing that even more. What we found within there is at least 3 or 4 sub-parallel zones, lookalikes to Excelsior. So we're actually seeing a corridor. We're seeing a corridor 500 meters wide with multiple mineralized zones within it. And to me, that's extremely exciting, because we've taken what we thought about this 2 months ago, not understanding the full extent, is a modest scale zone over kilometers, can still add size potential. But now we've taken that and we've multiplied it by 3, 4, 5 times in terms of potential. And now we're actually in the realm of some of the bigger gold deposits that we see, like examples from northern Mexico. I'll throw out La Herradura as an example. La Herradura is owned by Fresnillo. It's got about a 14 million ounce gold reservoir, about 6 million ounce reserve. They mine 400,000 ounces a year, about 0.7 gram material. Same geology, same controls, same parallel zones within a larger structure. We're seeing exactly the same thing. So I'm excited, because by analogy and by doing this basic work, we're opening up a huge upside potential for ourselves and investors.
Okay, if you're going to use them as an example, you got to tell me why you think you're like them. I mean, obviously they're way ahead of you. They're 400,000 ounce a year producer. You're really early stage exploration. We're still talking about soil anomalies here. So in what sense do you see parallels between you and them?
Yeah, exactly. So what I mean by that is, on the geologic side, we have all the similarities. We're in the same basement metamorphic rock units. They're intruded by these Cretaceous granites, and they form these sub-parallel stacked zones of mineralization. We're at an early stage. We're still figuring out the footprint of these things. Of course, La Herradura has hundreds of drill holes and production. They're much further along the track. But when they were starting out, they would have started out the same way, figuring it out, defining the footprints, and then going in with a drill and systematically exploring and expanding the mineralized zones.
Right, but
we're fairly early in the process.
But your understanding is that geologically, you're seeing the same sorts of geological structures, and that's what's giving you the confidence to make that statement.
Yeah, same style of mineralization. What we're seeing and what we're constantly adding knowledge to is we have a 3.2 kilometer long controlling structure that we can map and sample on our property. We now have staked 2 kilometers more along trend of that structure. So we control 5.2 kilometers of a district scale known mineralized structure. And we're really pulling apart the best areas along that structure to find bigger, better deposits. So that's sort of what any of these big gold systems have, right? Usually there's a big first order controlling structure and then a bunch of other structures controlling individual deposits or zones in proximity to that structure. It's exciting in that sense because it holds together quite well.
Okay, so you've been drilling Excelsior, and you think that actually that's probably on the edges of something bigger and better. Is there a danger of, I know you geologists are like, you get excited about the rocks, but is there danger that you kind of get lost in sort of chasing something bigger and better and never actually get anything done? I mean, is the Excelsior work useful to what you're now starting to think is there, or are you putting that behind you?
Well, that's a great point, and the understanding that we have now sort of changes the focus and the strategy. So yes, I think the drilling at Excelsior shows we have 250, 300 meters of very continuous mineralization, some very good grades. That's going to help build resources when we get to it. But the identification that there's 3-4 Excelsiors stacked within a zone, that means that we can't just be thinking about a 120 or 40 meter wide zone. We need to be thinking about 5 or 6 within that corridor. So as we explore that, we need to be thinking bigger. We need to be getting out there and exploring the whole corridor. That's where we're going to get to the step up in scale from, just targeting the individual zones.
Okay.
A month and a half ago, we didn't understand that about this system. We knew there was a long strike length and a lot of stuff around and high grade veins here and there, but it's really coming together in this coherent picture. I think with our next phase of exploration, we could really open this up, and that's the upside.
Okay, so you've done. It's not. This isn't. Sorry, I was being a bit facetious earlier when I talked about rock, soil sampling and rock sampling. Only you've been doing some drilling as well. You've had one drill turning. Is that right?
Yes.
Right. So if you're starting to understand what's there, you're going to have to need sort of, I guess, up the game with the drilling. I mean, I don't know what it's like in country. I mean, last year we seemed to be talking about long assay return times. We seem to find hard to find drill crews or even drills. Quite frankly, I mean, how are things down there?
Yeah, so all those issues have definitely delayed results and progress on this program. We have had issues sourcing supplies for drills. We've had mechanical issues. The supply chain disruptions means that instead of broken down for an hour, they're broken down for a few days. Everything's taking longer. Assay turnaround time has taken longer than expected. We're taking steps to mitigate all those things and do what we can to get more timely assays, because they're not only affecting investors, but they hugely affect our decision process. We need to understand what it is we're drilling to effectively expand out into a bigger program. So we're taking steps to solve some of those delays, and we do see some light at the end of the tunnel here. Things are getting a bit better on that side.
Right. And so just in terms of what you feel you need to do this year, obviously you're saying, right, okay, I think we found something which is a bigger prize to it because it's got these kind of stacked systems. You also notice some, you talk about, I think, identifying several mineralized outcrops, including a zone which had a sort of 8 gram per ton gold over, just over half a meter, 0.6 meters. So you've got to have an idea about how you're going to go about trying to prove to people that it is what you think it is. You are going to need to drill more. You are going to need to kind of, you're going to need to raise capital, presumably at some point later this year, to go after it at the speed that you want to go after it. So do you up the tempo? You talk about being systematic and scientific, but do you have to up the tempo somewhat?
Well, I think once you get to the stage where you understand your zones and your targets, then given the scale that we're looking at, it's going to take a lot of drilling to prove it. So, you may well need a couple of rigs, and you may well need to drill deeper holes. So yeah, that's going to take capital, but that's sort of what we're working towards. We're working towards the planning, permitting, and other parts of that situation to get out there, get on the ground, and open this thing up, because we can't just be drilling one zone like we are. We need deeper holes. We need to look at it as a system, a half-kilometer type wide system, and make sure that we understand the best parts of that system.
Okay. So you're would you say I mean, like you said to me way back when, I said, like, if there's nothing there, you guys walk, right? You don't just keep drilling for the sake of it, right? So
no, exactly. I've got lots of things I want to explore. I'm not here to sell a story and just keep things going, right? If I lose faith in the project, I want to get on to something that will add value. I don't want to waste time. And I'm sure investors don't want to be wasting time on something that's not going to make it. But I'm extremely pleased that as we advance this, one, we're getting good results with the drill, but we're really opening up the size potential. And by analogy, this thing could have some good legs to it. And in this part of the world, you don't need spectacular grades. You just need a lot of the lower grade stuff, maybe with some high grade sweeteners. And you can all of a sudden have a very interesting heap leach type target. We know the stuff leaches well. We've done leaching tests already. We know it comes to surface. We know the geometry's there. They're shallow dipping zones. Everything lines up for a pretty low hurdle type development scenario in a low cost jurisdiction that's wide open for mining. So there's a lot of check boxes here, and I think we're adding significantly to the scale side of things with the work that we're doing. Next step for us is to really go out there and demonstrate it with bigger programs, deeper holes, and if we can, more timely results to the market.